All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As I just said, apologies for anyone who's here live. This is definitely going to be a high-level overview of some similarities and differences between actually looking at and reading Python. I'm not a Python expert by any means. Just another person looking at different languages. So let's have a play. Has anyone used Python before? Is anyone an actual Pythonista here? No, not Paul. Okay, cool. Yeah, go for it, Adam.
Yeah, no, I originally was trying to do the data science track, so I had got some experience this time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, cool. Alex helped me learn some of this stuff. So just looking over his shoulder was really helpful. If you have a Python program in your house, fantastic. It makes everything much easier, because a lot of the time I found that if I'm looking at Python, I can understand what's going on pretty easily. I can even help debug sometimes, but actually writing it and getting some of the syntax is kind of nice to have someone on hand. Or of course, just good old documentation. So I mean, Python and Ruby, they do have similarities, not just visually, but in terms of the type of language they are. So they are both what we call interpreted languages. So everything happens at runtime. It's not like some languages where you have to run them through a compiler and then you go for it in that second phase. So you might hear people say, hey, Python and Ruby are slow. And, if you're looking at benchmarks, then yeah, then they're not fast languages. But honestly, from a human perspective, it's not going to make a massive difference. And they are really easy to work with, to debug, and quickly sort of, test and reiterate over and find something good. So that's why a lot of people love Python and Ruby and JavaScript and languages like this. So Python and Ruby both fall under that category. Python's a little older than Ruby. Python first came to light in 1991 by a guy called Guido van Rossum, which really appeals to me because the guy who first created the musical Staff was called Guido d'Arezzo. So I like inventors whose first name is Guido. It's a recurring thing. And then Ruby, as you will probably know, 1995, a little bit later, by the world-adored Yukihiro Matsumoto. And interestingly enough, both languages were made to be sort of nice for programmers to work with, readable, and Python's big push was for readable code that's easy to use, and therefore it's got actually quite a few more restrictions than Ruby. Ruby is very flexible, which is fantastic, but it can sometimes mean that Ruby's a little harder to look at because there's often a million ways of doing things. Whereas with Python, there's not usually so many ways to do things. And I'm not speaking logically. Logically, as we know, there's lots of ways to solve one problem. But in terms of like, how do I iterate over this collection? In Ruby, we've got quite a few different syntaxes just for doing the same thing. Whereas with Python, it's much more limited. The argument there is that it's easier to read. Obviously, as a group of people who know Ruby very well, we're probably, certainly my experience, I don't find Python easier to read, but that's just because I've been brought up on Ruby, and you are more comfortable with what you know. But I do see what they're saying, and I think we'll be able to look at some good examples of that today. So let's have a look. So let's see if we can set up a very quick little environment to work with. Now I already have this set up, but we can walk through it together as well. Just get a quick. You can use these reactions in Skype, either a thumbs up, something like that, or in chat or shout out. Is anyone intending on trying to code along some of this? Or is everyone sort of here for the chill out and listen? Yes, Adam's gonna, I think that's a yes for code along. Sweet, Mike's gonna code along, Gina, beautiful. All right, cool. Well, I'll make sure to give time. Paul's just watching. All right, cool, no worries, Paul. All right, so, well, Adam's already mentioned REPL. And REPL's awesome, as we all know. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen 1 second. I think I have a REPL up here. All right, sorry, I said I was gonna share my screen and I absolutely did not. Okay, so REPL it. If anyone's got anything to do with me ever, you'll know that I love REPL it. It's just little playgrounds to work with different languages. And as you can see, I've got a tiny bit of Python here. You can totally do this if you want to go to repl.it and code along. A lot of this will be available to you. Not so much the some of the graphic stuff will do. This is me testing us out here. Not so much, but you know, having a look at some of the functional and object-oriented programming, you can definitely code along here. If you want to work locally, I'm gonna focus on Mac today just because I'm on a Mac, and there's lots of tutorials for how to get Python going. Mac, for example, comes with 2.7 installed. Highly recommended that you go to python.org, I believe it is, and just give me 1 second. I'm gonna get myself in a slightly different place. There we go. Cool. Yeah, let's go here, python.org, and yeah, there we go. So that's the Python site, and you can download it. We're going to be using what am I using? I think I might be in 3.7. But as long as you got 3 point something, then everything today is going to work for you. Prior to 3, there was quite a few differences that came along, and I'm definitely not well versed in that, so do try and be along with 3. If you're in repl.it, it will automatically give you a 3 unless you choose that 2.7 REPL. So once you've got that installed, you will have that available to you. Now, if you're working in VS Code, I'm just going to very quickly show you what I'm doing here. So let's bring up a new terminal, and you will see that I'm working in a virtual environment, which I've set up so I can keep all my packages that I'm using here together. Now, if you were going to use this, all you would have to do is actually this very quick command that's here. So Python 3, that's how we access our Python. And then you can give it a message of venv, so for virtual environment, and then just name your environment. I've called mine Hello Python env because that sounds nice and friendly. It's not essential, but definitely once you get to installing packages and things, it's nice to keep everything together. That's given me, you can see when I created that, it gave me this file, which kind of, if you're in JavaScript, kind of looks a little bit like a node modules file. You know, there we go. There's all my libraries that I've got. Might also look a little bit like a, I'm trying to think of a Ruby example, but I can't. So yeah, keeping everything together in a virtual environment, I've definitely found super useful working in Python. If you just wanted to play around, certainly can. In Ruby, as we know, we've got IRB, interactive Ruby, and I can just go in there and put hi. I can play around. Our Python version of this, we can just go Python 3. If you want to set up an alias for Python to be Python when you type in Python or Py or something to be Python 3, that's fine. Do it in your bash profile. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, don't worry, you can Slack me afterwards. But it's just a shortcut basically. But yeah, let's work in this virtual environment for today. And you can tell I'm here because it says hello Python env, and I know I'm working here. Cool. This right click is here just because if you were to exit this for any reason, you can run it. So let's get out of here. Actually, I think if I yeah, okay, so it's automatically activating it as soon as I run, which is great because it's associated with this folder. But if you wanted to access it afterwards and it wasn't activating for some reason, if you go to one of your Python files, you can right click and run Python file in terminal, and it will automatically get you set up there, which is great. All right, so does anyone want a moment to do this virtual environment setup or get yourself a REPL? I'm very happy to leave this up here for a second whilst we're talking about the next thing. If anyone's having trouble with that, please feel free to give us a message in Slack and we can try and figure that out. All right, so let's talk about data. So I always say that programming is a combination of data and logic. Data by itself is interesting to look at, but we need some sort of logic to help make sense of it and do things with it. So Ruby 101, whenever I'm teaching brand new programmers, we look at these data types. So that's exactly where we're going to start with Python as well. And Python has quite a few similarities in terms of data types, but it has more options, if you like, when it comes to collections, which is kind of interesting. So let's have a look at here. I'm going to open up Ruby to the left and Python to the right, and I'll try and keep that pattern as we go through. I just realized I can't see chat. There it is. Okay. Beautiful. I'm going to try and keep an eye on chat as well. Okay, so Ruby on the left, Python on the right. So we have, and we'll actually have a little, we'll just play around in the terminal for now, actually. Do you know what? No links in chat earlier, no Meg. If you don't have Python installed and you want a 3.x, then you can go to python.org and grab it, or repl.it. There's a good play around as well.
Thanks, Nat.
No worries.
And good morning.
Good morning. All right, I'm going to split my terminal. And again, Ruby on the left, Python on the right. So I'm going to hop into IRB over here, and I'm going to hop into Python over here. And when we are in Ruby, we have access to this .class method to find out what type of data something is. So if I go hello, I'm expecting that to be a string, most likely. There he is, perfect. And as we can see, I've got here all the data types, all the data types that we have in Ruby. So we can sort of put them into bigger classes as well. So we've got strings are strings. We've got our Boolean types. We've got our numbers. We've got this symbol, and then we've got our collections. So we've got arrays and hashes. Our hashes are fun because we can format those keys either as symbols or as strings. That's kind of a good time. And hopefully this looks pretty familiar to most people. So let's have a look at these Python ones. If any, I'm going to close chat just so I have a little bit more screen real estate. But if anything comes up, please do shout out as well. I will try and look for notifications. So our version of class in Python is type, and we do it just by passing it the data. So instead of calling a method on the data, we're actually going to pass this type yeah, some data. So let's go hello, just like we did over there, and it tells me it's the class of string. That was expected, right? And then we've got our booleans. So interesting to note here, these I've got a capital T and a capital F. They will not work with lowercase. So that's just fun to know. Whenever you are trying to type a true or false, and often you'll see parameters sort of like exact equals true, for example. Make sure you're not accidentally making it lowercase, because that's not correct syntax. We can have a look at this. Type true, and it didn't like it. True is not defined. It was expecting some sort of variable by the looks of it. But if we give it a capital, it says it's class of Boolean. So that seems pretty pretty standard. We like that. There's not a nil. It would come back as none. But yeah, our Booleans kind of make a lot of sense there. We've got our numbers. Okay, so integer and float, we feel very comfortable with, I imagine. And we have the same really in Ruby. They just call int and lowercase float. And we also have complex. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a mathematician, which is probably why I gravitated towards Ruby in the first place. And they have this complex number. So that J, that rando J there stands for an imaginary number. And I know like a quotable from school, like the square root of -4 is an imaginary number, or I think maybe Douglas Adams taught me that. I do not know how you use them, so I apologize, I can't tell you a use case for this, but I'm sure lots of you are much smarter than me or have more maths experience and could be like, yeah, of course I know what that is, just like I know what an integer or a float is. I do not. I apologize. If anyone has an example of using one of those that you want to post in chat, then go for it, because that's cool. Former math teachers, yeah. If there's any math teachers in here, please like tell me, enlighten me.
I think oh, Monica is, but my mom's a math teacher, so she likes to nerd out, and I think like isn't anything like depicted by Monica, correct me if I'm wrong, like Greek symbol or something, like an imaginary number, like a C or something like that.
Imagine the definition of I, which stands for imaginary, is can you hear me? Is my
we hear you.
Okay, is the square root of -1. Okay, and so to express, let's say you wanted to express the square root of -4. A square root of a negative number can be expressed because you could say 2i, for example, would be the square root of -4, because it would be like the square root of 4 times the square root of -1. All right, so it basically becomes a symbol for the square root of -1, which allows you to express other imaginary, numbers. The imaginary numbers exist. It's just that we can't, in our minds, fathom them because of the way we have number systems, but they exist. Awesome. Just like numbers exist.
So we're saying this is a way to kind of fathom them.
Exactly. So we use a symbol. It's like pi. We use a symbol to express something that in our number system is an irrational number. Because we work on a decimal system. So, all right, that was my nerd contribution.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was great.
Thanks to call it complex, right?
Yeah, right. There's a reason it's called complex. I I don't. So Monica, do you know how would you say that? Is there a way to say what this is?
Yeah. Okay. Listen carefully. You would say 6 plus 4j. Well,
Right.
they're using j here usually, I guess, they're using the symbol j, but I think really the idea is that, usually, what makes a number complex is that it's expressed in two parts, and some kind of, normal number like 6, and then some kind of imaginary part, so it's yeah, so that's what makes it complex, the fact that it's not just like a simple number. The only way to, so that's basically why they call them complex. Any number, even a regular vanilla positive number that we all can relate to, it can be expressed in a complex form.
Gosh. So. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
TMI.
No, not at all. This is definitely why I am not a mathematician or statistician.
Yeah, I'm one of those math nerds.
Yeah, it's such a specific like mindset. I really don't consider myself to be like unintelligent, but I really find that kind of stuff hard to grasp. So yeah,
math, that's all.
one day I'll get it. Maybe with the help of Python, seeing as it gives me a way to fathom these unfathomable numbers. Awesome.
But actually, complex numbers are actually, you can express any kind of number as a complex number, even, if you want to make life difficult for yourself.
Not really. I'm better without it, to be honest.
Nice to hear that Python will let you make your life more complicated.
I am so happy. All right, cool. So sometime next week, Monica's going to run a supplementary study group on how to use complex numbers. I can only take you as far as telling you that we have access to complex numbers and a way to express them in Python, which we do not in Ruby. Certainly not as simply as this anyway. All right, so there we go, number deep dive. Let's go on to our collections, because collections are, the best data types, because that's how we keep a bunch of data. So we've got some which look really similar. I mean, what would we call this in what would you call this guy in Ruby?
We skipped over tuple.
I know, we're gonna go back though.
That's a array.
Yeah, so exactly, in Ruby we call this an array. In Python we call it a list. That's it. There we go. Next one. Now we've got dictionaries. So sorry, let's just go back to list actually for a second. You can see I've put some of the top features of each of these underneath. So they're ordered, which we also might say indexed. And they are mutable, so we can change the content of them. So actually now's a good time to go up to tuple. So tuple's a really interesting one. I'm not going to lie, for the longest time I thought a tuple had to have two things in it. That's not true. A tuple is just another collection type, similar to a list in that you can put a bunch of different things in it, and it's indexed, importantly. But it is immutable. Once you have created a tuple, you cannot alter the contents of that tuple. So that's really, really good to know. There's a clear difference there. And I've got to say that was one which I had the wrong definition of that for ages. I was like, oh yeah, if you only need to store a couple numbers, you use a tuple. That's incorrect. So collection type, indexed or ordered, but you cannot change what's in it. So that's a new one. And then we've got this dictionary. So it kind of looks like a Ruby hash, right? Now, a similarity and a difference. A similarity would be this guy. We can totally do this in Ruby, no problem, and we can do it in Python. This we cannot do. Why? Because we don't have symbols in Python. So this data type that we're using as a key over here, we just doesn't exist for us in Python. We can use integers as keys, which I'm just going to absolutely confirm, but I'm pretty sure that is not allowed in Ruby. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, don't know what you're talking about. So we can't use symbols because they don't exist, but we can use integers, which I think is a bit odd. The whole point of a dictionary or a hash is it's unordered, it's unindexed. I worry that the ability to use integers as your keys may make people think that they are indexed. And if you're really going to store something based on a number, like an ordered number, then it's probably going to be more efficient to use a list. But it's definitely use cases either way. And then we finally got this guy. So he's really interesting. He's in curly braces, looks kind of like a dictionary. But as you can see, there's no key value pairs. So this is kind of a mix between the two. It's unordered, so no indexing possible, but it only has unique values in it. So in JavaScript, you might have come across this idea of a set having only unique values in. This is very similar. All right, cool. So we've got accessing data out of these things is extremely similar to Ruby. It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. These lists and tuples, as we said, they're indexed. We use that square bracket notation to grab out whatever it is we need. The dictionary, which kind of acts like a hash, basically, same thing. We use that square bracket notation, but we pass it the key. If we were going for a key of an integer, which is for some reason allowed in Python, then you would do the same thing. Just give it whatever the key name is. All right, cool. Now a set. So a set, we can't directly access one of these things. We do need to iterate over it to grab what we've got. So this is a great moment to look at our basic iteration. And here we go. So I've got my set here and I've got this guy. So there's a couple of things to take in here, which we're gonna dive into. It's a for loop, possibly more familiar for JavaScripters, but we do have something very similar in Ruby as well. We just don't use it quite as much. But yeah, so we're basically saying for each item. So you might, if you're a mathematician, you might call this X. I don't. I like sensible variable names. So this is a set of greetings, and for each greeting in my set, I'm going to print the greeting. So let's just have a go at this down in our terminal down here. So can everyone see? I know Zoom sometimes get in the way, but can you see my Python prompt down at the bottom here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I don't want it to get cut off. So let's make this set. So we'll do you know what? I'm too lazy for that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy paste it. So notice what's instantaneously noticeable about this set, given that a set is, what's the defining feature of a set?
It's in curly braces.
Mm-hmm. And what about the data that's inside it?
They're strings.
In this case, yes. So defining feature, let me see if anyone's put it in chat. Unique, yeah, exactly, Paul. So a set only contains unique data. So I've got high in here twice. So let's see, when I assign this my set variable, when I go to retrieve it, we've only got one high because it was like, oh, we don't need this, we've already got it. So, I mean, if anyone's in a slightly like data frame of mind, you can already see like, hey, maybe I want all my unique values. Great, I just make a set. Concept of a set is not unique to Python, but this is what it looks like here. So yeah, and this loop here. So we've got 4 greetings. So for each item in my collection called my set, I'm going to print my greeting. So this, we can start to see some of this like classic Python syntax here, and we'll have
just real quick.
Yeah.
So, because I'm like going back and forth taking notes at the same time. So like, even though you have hi in there twice, it automatically like recognizes that and squashes it down.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, nice. Cool. So that was a whistle-stop tour through the data types that we might use. I think we're gonna have a look at, we might use, I don't think I'm using a tuple anywhere in my examples today, but I think the others, I'm definitely not using any complex imaginary numbers. Sorry, but we might hit some of the others as we go along. So we'll see how they behave. All right, so let's get out of these REPLs and tidy up after ourselves, and let's go on to the next thing. So I think next, let's yeah, we should have a look at some formatting stuff. I don't because I think for me this is the one of the actually the biggest differences. What, you know, just visually, like open up code, have a look at it, and we know, I can see what language this is. Python is very distinctive, and let's have a look at what this has. Cool. All right, so naming conventions. Here is a link for anyone who wants it. I'll pop it in chat. Here is a link to the conventions of Python. I'm assuming you guys know the Ruby conventions, and lots of these are very, very similar. Oddly enough, the main difference in terms of naming like little pieces is a module in Python is also lowercase, snake case, whereas a module in Ruby is that capitalized camel case. But yeah, pretty much it's snake case is the norm, fully capitalized constants, and classes are capitalized camel case. So very similar for those things. So let's have a look at these. So I've got pretty much copies on either side. Again, Ruby on the left, Python on the right. So here I'm setting a variable on line, let's pop this down to 13. So they're both on line 13 now. I'm setting a variable of Zelda. I'm setting it equal to a string. Looks exactly the same, right? We couldn't really get confused. So there's no variable declarations here, like in JavaScript. There's no declaration of type. So we don't say Zelda's definitely going to be a string. We just assign Zelda to a string. All right, methods. So, anyone spot what's wrong with my Ruby?
You need an end.
Yeah. Okay, so ends are the thing about Python which I both love. I love and hate. I love to hate the lack of ends in Python. There's something very readable to me that I can see that my end defines where this finishes. What does frustrate me, and I know anyone who's worked with me will know that I'm a real stickler for indentation. If you do something like this, I will not let you move on until it's been indented. But that's, for me, I need to be able to read your code, and you need to be able to read your code. And the more you do it, the more you'll just get the hang of it. In Python, if you do this, it's not correct syntax. If you check it out, it's like, no, wavy line. One of the really key defining features of Python is this use of white space. So the indentation means something in Python. In Ruby, it doesn't usually. Very, very seldom does leaving a space somewhere in the middle of your code mean anything at all in Ruby, but in Python it's super important. So definitely something to pay attention to. And I think as a newcomer to Python, it's one of the easiest things to forget. And of course, if you are a Rubyist, you're going to want to do this. But syntax highlighting will not allow it. Well, it will allow it, but it will look really weird. We can also see, sorry, I think there was a question or a comment.
Yeah. Does it count spaces and tabs? So if you have like 4 spaces and a tab is 4 spaces, does it?
Oh, that's a great question. That is a really good question. I'm going to do 4 spaces now, and let's oh well, hold on. It doesn't help if I actually do the one that I didn't do. Let me just get rid of this iteration. So I changed hello world. I'm gonna take out this bit just for you to see what happens when it's like new. Oh. Cool. So here it's an indentation error. This is an error that we never get in Ruby, indentation error. But like Ruby, it's, you know, the naming is very nice. We understand what's happening. Yeah, let's see if we can. So if we 4 space in instead of a tab, let's see if it's happy with that. Yeah, that was okay with that. Let's see if it was okay. Let's see like how maybe it just needs some white space. Okay, so it just needs some white space, and you know, I honestly, I guess that makes sense because people will have different automatic settings for their tabs and spaces. There's the great debate about tabs versus 8 space versus 4 space, and everyone's got their preferred. Looks like mine's set up to 4 individual spaces, and Python's okay with that. It just needs white space. Some sort of indentation. Good question. Cool. And then this other key features, we've got this the colon, which is where it says, okay, we've stopped the definition of what it is. Let's actually put it in here. So we've just got a syntax error there. Beautiful. And as you can see, now this one looks very similar to Ruby. We're passing in an argument, therefore I passed it in parentheses. This hello world though also has these parentheses. Now in Ruby we wouldn't expect that. When in the definition we wouldn't have them, but in Python we do have these. I frequently describe Python as being Ruby and JavaScript's weird love child, and this is why. That's all I can see when I look at Python is like Ruby and JavaScript. Had a good time one day, and this was the result. But
coronavirus quarantine.
Yeah, you know, keep yourself busy. So yeah, that's my visual opinion of this. Okay, so okay. Now here's something that we don't often use in Zelda, in Ruby. If I go say hi to Zelda, does this work? Let me make sure I don't have
Wait, where's the no? Because you need to pass it. Oh wait. Yeah, it should.
It works. That's weird, right? It's weird, but it's also not weird. We use it all the time in object orientation, for example. Oh no, in puts. So puts is just a method, and so technically we pass it an argument, right? Puts hi. That's what's happening. We're calling the method puts. We're passing it an argument of hi. But convention has, mollycoddled us into allowing us to just do this, and it's not a problem. In that spirit of Python being much less flexible.
Question about that real quick. I
Yeah.
know it's like a Ruby question, but like just the way that you had like say hi to and then Zelda without like actually having it in the parentheses. Do you see that in the wild more, or do you see it enclosed in the parentheses more?
From my experience enclosed, there's very specific methods that, conventionally speaking, we leave them out. So puts is one of them. That atter accessor as well. Atter accessor, actually we're passing it a bunch of symbols as different arguments, but that's all it is.
So,
we're just
like, if you saw that, you'd like infer, oh, this is probably putzing something. Just say hi to Zelda. Just because.
No, not necessarily. Say hi to could be doing anything.
Oh, I thought you said there's certain things that.
Oh, so when with puts, so like we know what we're super used to seeing that, but that's no different. Like puts is just a method. It happens to be a built-in one. Oh, a good example is give me an attribute, color equals so def color equals, so obviously we're not in an object, but probably you're familiar with this idea of writing a setter. And when we write that, we would just go color equals orange, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. What we're actually doing.
No, I'm talking about like line 20, how that's formatted, and like directly after you are asking for an argument versus line 29, how you don't have Zelda in those parentheses.
So yeah, same thing. So what this so this is the method definition, and this is where we're actually calling it.
I think we see it a lot in macros. When we use macros and metaprogramming, they kind of ditch the parentheses a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and you know, this is a good example. Like Meg's questions are a really good example of, you know, maybe it shouldn't be so flexible. Maybe it makes it harder to read, and Python resolves some of those questions. You know, we just can't do that in Python.
Okay.
Not allowed. But yeah, but Ruby's, you know, pros and cons. Just different things.
Gotcha.
I think this is always the one that gets people like all we are doing here. We created a method called color equals, but like we can even stick a space in it. Like what? That's insane. And we're passing it this argument, but because that doesn't look English enough for us, we just take out the parentheses. Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. All right, so yeah, and Python is just not going to allow this. Let's actually put Zelda back in. So that was absolutely fine. And let's see. I'm just going to try and say hi to Zelda here. It's, you know, we're getting linting. It's like don't know about this, guys. And yeah, it tried, but it says just invalid syntax. So yeah, I mean it's nice. It is nice because I guess it does make it a little more readable. If you didn't know either of these languages, it's easier to say these are the rules, don't change the rules. Whereas Ruby is just like, here's the rules, go do what you want with them. which is good fun. All right, so let's have a look at conditionals. So for some reason I've not put in a conditional here, but I have one in here, and we'll see that they are very, very similar. Let me grab frameworks. Obviously this is, let's just go if, this is kind of silly to bring us in all in. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. I think conditionals look extra weird without ends. I think it's very strange. But yeah, same idea really. If, and then actually let's make ourselves a fizzbuzz. So def fizzbuzz, and then we need to pass it that. What do I need here? Before I hit this line, yeah. I mean, my text editor indents for me, but if it didn't, we would have to indent. And then we've got if, so if, and then here we're just, let's just do one of them now. So if num modulo 3, I've not used modulo in Python. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that we can. So if num modulo 3 is equal to 0, we are going to print fizz. Else, let's just print the num. All right, so this would be fun, and that's it. And it is killing me not to put an end here and an end on the next line. It's killing me right now. But you know, the more you use something, the better it gets. As you can see, apart from that, it's really like the same thing. So conventions carrying on, so the colons at the end of the lines. We don't have to wrap our conditions in parentheses like we do in JavaScript. This is kind of just, you know, it looks very, very similar. It's very approachable. It would be great if I could say, maybe put in, this number is not divisible by 3. So now string interpolation is an oddly large topic in Python because it keeps changing how you can do it. The most recent way, and this I would recommend doing this most times if you can, would be to use this fprint. So we're gonna this is a formatted string, and we can say maybe let's give it the number. So I'm going to wrap that in curlies. You know, I feel like this is getting a little bit similar to Ruby, but no pound sign. So num is not divisible by 3. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing our formatted string, which you might see, is going to be to just have the string but with spaces in it. So almost the same, but I'm just going to leave that empty actually. Is not divisible by 3. Oh, divisible. And then you call format on the string. So this is, oh, hello. This is explicitly formatting the string. And this has just been surpassed basically by format, by this f string. But I've definitely seen lots of places where this is used. So format, and then you can pass it what that you want to put in there in the same order. So if I had several, I could do format and 3. You can name these if you want, and then it doesn't matter the order.
That's so unintuitive, you know, to have the, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a godsend that they were like, you know what, this is nicer. I don't mind this. I don't mind this f string. And I mean, let's Rubify it here. So in Ruby,
it is nice because you have all your variables in one spot that way.
Yeah, totally. It's just different, isn't it? It's just, and you can change things out, especially if this isn't being passed in by your user. Now I've got a great link somewhere. Here we go. This is this will give you a a full history and best practices on string formatting in Python. Yeah, let's go visit it ourselves, because there is so this is that slightly older one we'd seen, and then here we are here, and now this is with that named format. It just makes it a little bit longer, because then you have to, you know, the actual assignment out there, but it works. Where is user? Here we go. So yeah, so I would recommend reading through this. So some really interesting things in here about like, you know, malicious string injection, code injection into via strings. So definitely have a read through that. It's got some good ways to you know, help you decide which formatting you use to prevent any attacks. So good to know, and that link is really gonna give it all to you. All right, so the final thing I've got on here is iteration, and this, I mean, this should feel pretty, I think it's very intuitive, aside from the fact it's, you know, this colon and no end. It makes a lot of sense. It's very familiar for anyone who's worked in JavaScript, for this for in, but yeah, for every cat in the kitties list, print the cat. I find that very intuitive. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I hope you guys are experiencing the same thing as I did. That all of this is very readable as a Rubyist. We may not, you know, instantaneously like be able to write it ourselves, as there's gonna be little things, syntax things that trip you up. But that's what documentation's for. It's very quick to figure that stuff out. We know what a collection is. We've learned today that we've got a couple of extra collection types in Python, why we might use them. Otherwise, you know, we know why we might use a collection, and then from there we can say, I wonder what the best one is. So yeah, those are our data types, and some of this formatting business.
So you just comment the same way as Ruby?
Yes.
Okay.
Good point. Yes, commenting is exactly the same. Awesome. What time are we on? We are just about an hour in, and what I'd like to do is probably let's do a little stretch, because I always forget to do that, and I regret it for myself, and I'm sure everyone else regrets it as well. So let's stand up, have a little stretch for a few minutes, and we'll get going again at, it's 28 by my watch. Let's try and get going at 32. And I'll leave this up here as well, so you can see my banner here. Let's go 33, because it just changed to 29. See you at 33, and we'll be carrying on with object orientation in Python, what that looks like. And we're going to start looking at bringing in some libraries and giving ourselves a tiny web server, which is always good fun. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Get questions in chat if you have any too, especially if they're from Monica about maths. Okay. Let's see. Okay, it's 33. Let's get going. I got chocolate milk in my break. It was great. All right, cool. So we've had a look at data types, and we've had a look at some of the basic formatting. So now it's pretty much we can sort of fly with it, do what we want. Of course, you know, the thing we're missing slightly is object-oriented. It's like class syntax. So let's have a look at that, and it should look very similar. On the left, we've got Ruby. On the right, we've got Python. All right. What are you guys noticing around the word self right now? Chat.
It looks like a JavaScript class.
Huh. Yeah. Do you know what? In that initialize, or on that init, sorry. Yeah, it kind of looks like a JavaScript constructor, doesn't it? That's true. I hadn't thought of that. So yeah, it's when we're assigning these out, that's a really good comparison actually. Let's start there. So in your JavaScript class syntax,
Sorry for people that haven't gotten there yet.
I don't think, let's see. Well, I know Vesna literally just started JavaScript. She just passed her browser assessment. Nice one, Vesna. And I feel like most of the people here are in JavaScript or beyond. So yeah, apologies if you haven't seen this, but in JavaScript constructor, when you're constructing a class, self dot is definitely the you know, it looks very familiar. And we seem here to have sort of replaced our instance variables. Here in Ruby, we're directly assigning out these instance variables, whereas here we're assigning an attribute directly to this. So definitely sounds very JavaScripty. And it also, in Python, just like JavaScript, we don't have to explicitly say, oh, this is how we access this attribute. If in Ruby I didn't make my setters and getters either explicitly or with our attr accessors, then we would have an issue. We wouldn't be able to get that data. But here, if I've made it so that I can, so that my attribute exists, then I can access it the same way. If I really wanted to keep it private, I could pop a underscore in front of it. So I've actually only done that here, but I could totally say oh, if don't know why you'd want to do this, but I can only access my name from in the class, and you could pop your underscore there. And now you can only access it within here. So very much like a private. And actually, before we go there, I'm gonna, because we can apply this to any method here. And I've actually got, I know this is something that I don't think everyone uses so much in Ruby. Did this just get a lot smaller? Is it still readable?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It did shrink a little. It's weird.
Yeah, I thought that too. I like it though, because I can see everything. So here in my Ruby class of language, I've made this private method down here. Has anyone used private methods? What does that mean? What does that?
You know, I forget.
Yeah, no worries. So so it means that we can only access it from within the class. So if I was to do Spanish.translate hello, because that's the only word I have in my dictionary. Let's get rid of this one and this. then it says no method error, no method called translate. And we're like, why? Spanish is an instance and translate exists. But because I told it was a private method, I couldn't access it like this. So what I've actually done is I've called translate from within this how do you say method. So because that's already, it's in here, it's in the class, I can access it from there. I just can't access it directly from outside, just calling it on an instance of my language. So if I, so that this how do you say, it does trigger a method which actually calls on translate being our private method, but that's okay. That's allowed because I'm calling it from within that instance method. So how we can do that in Python, and this is not just for you know, your instance methods, for example, any methods that you've got here. So your instance methods, your class methods, and also our other attributes. So this is kind of a little bit more JavaScripty, I would say. Actually, these are just methods. Any method or attribute, you can privatize it. Sounds a bit economic. You can make it private with that underscore. So here's that translate method. It's in the middle of all my other ones, and it just says, yep, here we go. We've got an underscore, which means I can't call it from outside. So same thing if I did Spanish dot translate. Let's get rid of this. Yeah, go for it, Monica.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just to, so I'm clear in my head, because I'm in Rails now, so I'm not JavaScripty. But to differ, so in other words, when you go underscore, those are private methods or private attributes.
Exactly.
As opposed to class methods or class methods, which would be accessible through the class. These instead are just not accessible at all except within the object itself.
Yeah, so even over here in this Ruby one, translate, now we have implicit calling of self, as we know in Ruby. So this actually is the same thing as doing self.translate. Self in this instance method is the instance. Here, I am still calling it on that instance directly, but the difference is I'm calling it from within the safe space, rather than outside here.
That guy over here is being an asshole, by the way.
He's on?
Yeah.
Meg, you're unmuted.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Okay, cool. So let's run the Python version of this. So I'm trying to access that translate method just directly. It says language object has no attribute translate, and then you'd be like, well, I know that it's got an underscore. It's a different name. So let's try that. And now that's gone away. But it just didn't give me anything. So I was like, what's going on? It didn't actually let me access it, which is kind of fun. But if I do it through how do you say, and again that's calling on that translate, then we get our phrase. So interesting, potentially silent error there. Kind of an interesting one. Ruby will just be like, no, this method doesn't exist. Python will be like, I see the method, but I'm just going to pretend you didn't call that, which is a fun dynamic. Okay, so let's what other strange things are in here? Right, let's go back to self. So as we can see in self, we're using self to assign out these attributes. That makes sense. Self is also here and here and here and here and here. It's everywhere. Okay, so how do we sort out the difference between our instance methods and our class methods in Python? So this is a little bit I hate this. I think it's disgusting. I'm just gonna say that out loud. Why should I have to pass self each time? So, and this is like this silent argument that's getting called, right? So it's being passed as an additional argument before all your others. So when I call save here, I'm not passing it any arguments. I don't need to pass it any arguments, but self gets passed as the first argument. Same here. When I call add word down here, I'm passing it 2 arguments. But when I define it, I need to be like, you're going to get yourself, and then you're going to get your 2 arguments, and then you can act on them accordingly here. No implicit calling of self either here. If I can't just do words. I need to explicitly mention that. And then with the class method, it's the same thing. Convention says that we say CLS. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm sure there's some sort of benefit somewhere. I just think that there's a lot of typing. But this is what it looks like. And if you're like, why is there self everywhere? This is why. It's how it's going to just get access to self. My class method is also defined with this decorator. Decorator is not a phenomena exclusive to Python. You'll see it in other languages as well. And you can see it kind of looks like an instance variable. It's not. It's what we call a decorator. And it's saying that this is a class method. So without that, it wouldn't allow me to call it. Just straight on capital L language, that's what I need. So to define, as a brief overview, an instance method in Ruby, we know what this looks like. It looks sort of like any method, but it's encapsulated in this class unit. Our class unit in Python also has instance methods. We know that they're instance methods. They don't have a decorator, and they receive self as their first argument. Our class methods in Ruby, we're defining with this self keyword right in the definition. Our class methods in Python, we are using this decorator to describe that. I quite like this, actually. I like that.
So the decorator, is that kind of like for private in Ruby, it's like you have class method and then all the methods below, or do you put class method above each?
So decorators usually need to be above each one.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I was to make another class method up here,
you put the decorator again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I agree. I think it looks a bit weird. I would like to keep them all together, but you would have to declare that, and that's the standard for decorators. Yeah. Monica, is your hand up for a new question?
No, let me take it
all
down.
Right.
Sorry.
Cool. Yeah, no worries. Just checking. Also, I realized I can lower your hand. Okay, right. Sorry.
Oh, I don't think I can.
Got it.
To do.
Lower hand.
Sorry.
It feels rude to lower someone's hand for them. I'm not sure about that.
I can do that.
Cool. So I think on the surface it does look a bit different, but there's a lot of similarities as well. So let's just walk through what happens when I make these new languages. Oh, didn't want that. There we go. So let's just go through the Ruby first. So I've got my class written out, and here I'm making a new instance of language. I'm saving it in a variable called Spanish. I'm instantiating it with 2 strings, the name of the language and the name of the language in English. .new is going to trigger that initialize method. I've decided to make a custom initialize because I want to do something with this information. I'm assigning it out to instance variables. I will say, because I have got setters, thanks to my atter accessors, I could actually do this as well and use the method, but I'm not going to. So I'm setting those throwing those out to my 2 instance variables. I'm making another instance variable called words, setting it to an empty hash, and then I'm saving it. My save shovels self being my current instance, into @all. @all is that class variable. And then we're doing the same for German. So @all after German should have 2 things in it. I can call add word, got an instance method. We've kind of seen that in action. So I'm just adding a new key of whatever the English word was. So hello, a key of hello to my words hash. I'm setting the value to translation, so hola. And then I'm saying, how do you say hello? And that prints me out a message with some string formatting, and it calls this private method of translate. So there's a bit of everything in this class, but it's got kind of all the essentials. And to see all those languages, I'm saying we've got the following languages. So obviously, I say obviously, in Ruby, our class variables and our instance variables, we cannot directly access them without we make a method in order to access them. So I've made this print all. I haven't got just a self.all here. I've said I only want people to access this in the correct format. So I put out this little message, and then I iterate over that class array and puts out the language name. There are a bunch of objects in there so I can access the name. So let's put that back in. And all right, so now, and what I want to say is that, well, interestingly enough, there's that other format version. I'm going to take it out for now. This is less code, right? We can't deny that this is, I'm not going to say significantly, but actually if you had like a lot more methods, many more classes, even just getting rid of that end is saving us quite a bit of space, and it is quite neat and compact. The more I look at it, the more I appreciate it. But it is different, but it's doing exactly the same thing, and I do think it's very readable. So let's just chat through the same process here. So again, I'm setting a variable of Spanish, and I'm creating a new instance of language. Slightly different syntax here. We're not using that .new. So, and again, this is sort of like JavaScript and Ruby had a baby, and they were like, that new word, before, after, how about we just don't have it at all? So that's how I imagine this came about. And yeah, so we pass in, that triggers off this init. So this is actually a double underscore both sides, and this is something that you'll see with a lot of built-in methods in Python. You'll often see all these underscores everywhere. Quite a bit strange to see at first, I guess, but you get used to it, and there are a lot of them around. So yeah, and then here comes that first passing of self. So it's made a new version called this init. It is an instance method. It's receiving self as its first argument. We don't have to pass it, but it receives it, and then it gets all the other arguments we put in. It's assigning these attributes. Again, making a words attribute, just an empty dictionary, and .save. So I think this is the first time, this might be the first time we've actually spoken about it. In Ruby, if you don't have any attributes to pass, you don't have to invoke. You don't have to do this. In Python, you do. This is just a reference to a method. This is actually invoking the method. Very JavaScripty. Will not work without. Okay, so, and when I call save, let's see what's getting happened. Again, it implicitly receives self as an argument. So there is implicit action in Python around self. It just means you have to write a lot more instead of a lot less, which is hilarious. So we've got self, and then I'm calling this this attribute. So again, I'm setting this attribute here, and I can access it directly from within. I can't access it from without, from outside. but I'm in here. Sorry, I think.
Can I just ask, on this save, are they called methods still in Python?
Yes.
So on this save method, when you said like it still uses it, like it still will do things implicitly, you just have to write more. It seems like as long as you write out this method, like that means you don't have to write it when you're actually like using the code and running the code. Because
you mean the self argument?
the save method.
So I'm just calling it from here.
Yeah.
To be honest,
like,
this could be a good place to keep this private, because maybe I don't want to be able to save this from outside. Maybe I only want to save at that point.
just the fact that you're passing, well, I guess I guess looking at it side by side with Ruby, it's like the same thing, that you wouldn't necessarily pass an actual parameter to save in Ruby either.
Well, it's implicit, isn't it? So it's the fact that it's being called on it here. So what's really happening here is this.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's what's actually happening. But we can kind of gently ignore that and everything's okay. Not ignore it, just we don't have to write it out. We need to be aware of it for sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But there is still an element of implicit awareness. It's just that we have to be aware that it's coming in Python and define it there. Cool. So I think what we should do, because we've got 35 minutes left, let's go and make our own class, just a basic one, and let's try and use it in a tiny web framework. So I've got let me pause just so I can okay. There we go. Resume. Okay, so I want to show you what I've got. And what I've got is I've made the world's like tiniest front end. Let's bring this up. It's my cat app client. And so we can depart from Ruby now. We're gonna leave it behind. And I will say my front end's written in HTML, JS, CSS. And so let's go out and into cat app client. I'm just gonna open my index. And here we go. So this is my front end. What happens is that I can input a name, age, and image URL for a cat, and I want to submit it, and I want to be able to send it to an API and then get back whatever's saved in the API. And I also want to be able to fetch all of the cats that are in there too. All right, so let's first of all make the data we're going to work with. So cats, I want to represent in instances of a cat class which have these three attributes: name, age, and image URL. So let's start making that here. All right, let's try and do it. No, actually, no, we're a bit pushed for time, so I'm going to bring up language over here as well. So,
I was gonna say, could you put the data types on the right?
You want the data types on the right instead of OO? Sure.
Actually, yeah, actually the OO is probably
Okay.
yeah.
All right, cool. So, you know what? I'm gonna invite someone to take remote control of my screen and create this cat class. All it needs to be able to do is to initialize with a name, an age, and an image URL. And I want to save it into an all array. And I want to be able to access like cat.all when it just gives me back that array. He wants remote control. We'll all help as well. We're not just gonna stare at you silently.
I'm probably gonna regret this, but I'll try.
Yeah, go for it, Monica.
Monica.
All right, so I've given you control.
Oh dear. Okay, so well, can I type in there now?
To be able to.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, I'm trying to type, but nothing is coming out. Why is that?
Try and click there yourself.
I'm trying to click there. I'm
There we
clicking.
go.
Oh, okay, fine. It's just very, it has to go across the ocean, so.
Yeah, no, it's not the best
So how about
experience.
cat?
It
right.
literally has to go across the ocean.
Were you okay there?
Class
so far?
cat with the colon.
Oh yeah, the colon, right, okay.
Yeah,
And then I guess I need an all, don't I? So,
I would say so.
yeah, so all equals, and then I've got the brackets. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. That's what I meant to do. Okay, very good. All righty, so now we need the init. All right, so def.
But you gotta indent in.
Yeah, but I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to get the how do you get that double underscore?
It's literally just 2 underscores.
Okay, all right, sorry. All right. I'm balancing my laptop, so on my lap. So. Okay, init, and then again, and you said so we have to do self.
Yes.
And what were the other attributes? A name.
Yep.
Age.
Yep.
And anything else?
There's going to be an image URL.
Image. So just a image.
Yeah.
Image URL.
Perfect. Yeah, I like that. Good
Okay.
naming convention too.
Right, now I must now a colon.
And now colon, yeah. So
Okay.
I know you said you weren't there yet with indentation, but Python mad at you
Okay,
already.
now, did I lose control here because I'm trying to get rid of that thing that popped up?
I see your mouse. I can get rid of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to press my colon. It doesn't seem to be. There it is. Okay, fine. All right. So now I need to indent.
Well,
Okay.
actually, your init method also needs to be indented within class because at the moment it looks.
Oh, I see. That's what Meg was saying. Sorry.
Yeah, because we don't
All
have
right.
an end to define the end of our class. We need to indent. Also,
Gotcha.
you'll need a space after def.
Right. Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Syntax. All right. All right.
That's okay. We're here to help.
Exactly.
I know. All right. So now I have to do all this self stuff, right? Self name equals name, and then I have self. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to hit the. There we go. I just have to be patient for the screen to.
Yeah.
Age equals age. Okay, and then we have, oops, and then we have, now we have our image self and this will create the instance variables for me, I gather, right? So this is all.
This will assign out attributes. So kind of like in JavaScript. You said you've not got JavaScript yet.
Okay.
So it's
All right. So and now should I do the save thing because I imagine we're going to have to save, right?
yeah. When I make a new cat, I do want it to be put in that all array.
All right, so self, and that's going to be a private, correct? So
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. It doesn't have to be. But I can't imagine myself calling .save from outside
yeah,
right
so
now.
okay. So now we have to do space underscore
Mm-hmm.
and then self. Save yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
I like
Colon.
how you're talking through it too, Monica. Oops.
We
got
Oops, sorry, what happened? I went up there. Sorry.
All right.
The migrating cursor problem. When you balance a laptop on your back, all sorts of interesting things can happen. So, self, and then we're going to go to our all, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to append, I guess. That's what happens in
Yeah,
Python.
so it's kind of like a push.
All right.
Okay, so that's like a built-in Python method.
A list method, yeah. So all is a list, therefore it has access to all the list
Okay,
methods.
so what else? Is there anything else I need to make this do?
I do want to be able to access that all array.
Okay,
I
so
want to be able to do capital C cat.all.
all right, so that's going to be our oh, sorry, I just lost my screen. Hold on. Okay, so should this be a private? No, this shouldn't be private, should it?
So in the
class?
same way I did capital L language.printall, I want to be doing capital C cat.all. So in Ruby, what kind of method would that need to be?
That's a class method, right?
Yeah. So how do I
So
define it?
I'm going to do here, I have to do this little job thing here.
Yeah, decorator.
Yeah, and we could just say class class method. Sorry.
Just a little jab.
Exactly. Okay. Class method, and then it's going to go def, and then print all, I guess. And it's class, right? You have to do that.
I just want to be able to call cat.all.
Cat.
Dot all. Okay, so we don't need
So
print.
it would just be all.
Yeah, like that.
I
Right?
want to be able to access it from outside, so I don't want it to be private.
Oh,
So you
okay.
don't, so then I would take this out, right?
It's still a class
No,
method.
class is okay, but we don't want it. Okay, I just take out the underscore.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
Okay, so it's a class method, but it's not private. Okay, got it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then, and what do we want to do here?
You need the semicolon at the end of line.
Oh yeah, that's semicolon. All
Yeah.
right, not
Just-
semicolon, colon, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay, so what do we want to do here? We want to list our cats, or
I just want to return the array.
so you just want to return the array. So would we just go
So we print.
sorry.
Well, would you?
Well, you just want to return the array, or you want to print it?
I just want to return the array. I don't want to
So
print it.
we don't use print then.
Correct. But what's class here?
Oh, sorry. What am I doing here? So, I guess it's self. Sorry.
Well, how have I passed it in?
Sorry. It's CLS.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
.all would be recursively calling this method. How do I access that private all attribute that I've got?
The private all attribute. Oh, sorry. So I do have to do the underscore there.
Beautiful. Nice one. All right. Final important thing that I actually don't think I've actually said is Python does not do implicit returns. We have to explicitly
Oh,
return.
so I have to say return. Do I actually have to use the word return then?
We do, yeah.
All right, so, oh, sorry, that's not how you spell return.
It's close. Okay. Ruby might accept it.
I have a question on this.
Yes.
On the class method.
Yeah.
for the parameters that was passed in, does that matter, or does it have to be CLS?
It's a convention. I haven't actually tried it with anything else, but I believe it's just a naming convention.
So like for a class method, it's convention to put in CLS.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is looking great.
We.
Thank you so much, Monica.
You're welcome.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, great job. So let me, oh no, abort control. How exciting. Right, so this looks great. And I think this is ready to be plugged into my API. So let's have a little chat about web frameworks. So I think everyone here has heard of the phrase model view controller. It's one of the patterns available to us to create our applications. I've just created, what have I just created here? Out of model view controller.
The model.
Yeah, exactly. So all I've done is made the class actually. So I've not done any sort of data persistence apart from this, you know, all. So I'm actually going to for the purpose of testing, because I don't have a database to keep pulling up to and actually saving this data, I'm gonna seed it, if you like, with 2 cats here. So we do always have something ready to go for us. And our view I've got covered. Here it is. I'll show you very quickly what that is for anyone who's interested. We've got a basic HTML page, which is referencing this a little bit of CSS, and it's also referencing some JavaScript. So this JavaScript, again, if you're not in JavaScript yet, let's just chat through this. Oh, I just saw in chat some things in chat. Okay, so I'm just grabbing some elements up here, so I've got access to them. Most important thing is really that as soon as I as soon as I load this page, it fetches to this endpoint, which I'll be creating myself. And I will be taking that data and then I'm passing it to something called add all cats. Add all cats takes what will hopefully be an array of cats and appends them one by one to my DOM. And then I also have an add cat function, which is called when I submit this form. And when I do that, I grab the data from my form, I pop it in a hash. Oh, hold on, what am I talking? Oh, we're in language number 3 now. Pop it in an object, which is JavaScript's key value pair data type. And I log it out for some unknown reason. And then I make another fetch request, but this time it's a post. So I need to be able to handle both a fetch request and a post request, but it's to the same endpoint, but depending on which HTTP verb comes with that, I'll need to be able to handle it accordingly. I've already set this up because this isn't something that we need to be doing. It should look very familiar to anyone who's approaching your JavaScript project. You might notice I'm not using any OO.js here, which I probably definitely could have done. It's just a very, very basic thing. At the moment, none of this works because I don't have that endpoint. So let's have a look. Let's inspect this. And we were making that fetch request as soon as this loads, weren't we? So let's go to network. Let's refresh this page. And it tells me failed, everything's failed. And yeah, it basically just doesn't exist. Let's see if there's something in console. Yeah, connection refused. It's just not there. Oh, got William. All right, so let's have a look at this. Now I've already got this basic Flask API set up. which to have us to have a look at. And actually, just before we do that, let's go back to that MVC. So we've got our model of cat. We've got our view here, which is this thing I've set up, and then we need our controller to actually be, you know, it's where we handle our requests and find the data that we need, and it's like a sort of telephone exchange, right? In Ruby, certainly in the Flatiron course, you've looked at Sinatra as an option for this, for a web framework, and we've also looked at Rails. Sinatra is definitely, it's really nice, it's lightweight, it's quick to get going, and it just does that. It gives us access to a very, very basic framework where we can make some endpoints and route things accordingly. When we have Rails, now Rails is huge, right? Rails can do it all, can do it all and more, and it's big. And if you want to do everything in there, then it's got a way to do pretty much everything. In Python, we have a similar relationship of Sinatra to Rails between Flask and Django. So Flask is small, it's lightweight, quick to set up, and that's what we're going to use today. And then you also have Django. So Django is much closer to Rails in that it handles all this stuff for you. If you have a go and look at the Django documentation, you'll see some things that kind of a little bit reminiscent of Active Record in terms of, you know, going through your data, and it's different but similar idea, that relationship. So today we're going to have a look at Flask. In between Sinatra and Rails, like Rails is used everywhere, right? It's not everywhere, that's an exaggeration, but it's very popular. Sinatra not so much. Sinatra traditionally used for like prototyping things. There are some companies using it as their primary framework, but it's definitely not as common. Flask, on the other hand, is very popular. In JavaScript land, like Express, you might have heard of Express or seen me working with it in these brunch and learns sometimes, and it's that sort of level of lightweight. It's nice, and you can just throw it in a little file. Suddenly you've got a little web server. Rails, you can't do that, and Django is also pretty big. But yeah, Flask is definitely, in terms of lightweight frameworks, I'd say Flask and Express are very popular. Sinatra, for some reason, not so popular. If you're doing a Rails web framework, a Ruby web framework, it's usually going to be Rails. I don't know why. Sinatra's cool, and it has the best name, that's for sure. I remember when I was learning Sinatra and I had Frank Sinatra on repeat the whole time. I was very sad to move on to Rails. So let's go and have a look at a Flask API. So I'm going to bring that up over here. As I said, I've already got it set up because I don't want to, we've got lots of things to do. And here it is. It's not that big, right? It's kind of, you know, that's it. It's smaller even. Well, I say it's akin to Sinatra and Express in terms of size for just a small one. But let's take this out, and we've just got our hello world. I've got cores in here because I'm accessing it from another place. So otherwise you're going to get your cross origin errors. Very easy to solve in Flask. That's it. That's all you have to do. If you didn't have any of these libraries, so we're starting to work with libraries here. I'm going to use my package manager, which is called pip, which is very cute. So pip install, and let's just make sure we've got Flask. So we would need our Flask library. It says all my requirements are already satisfied. And then the other thing I needed was Flask cores, but I've already got that. And I'm also, so this isn't something I've installed via pip. What's this? Line 9. So this is in this web frameworks folder. I'm in my Flask file, and I've just said, hey, I need this too, this cat. So this cat.py file is also seeing as a module, and I'm like, hey, I need that from this lowercase c cat module. I need the big C. I need the big cat. So you know,
you're importing the class itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool, right? Very easy, nice and easy. I'm putting together a little app. I'm giving it, I'm saying that I'm going to be accessing it from other places. Don't worry about it. And then I've got my my first route. So this is my home route. Again, we've got this decorator here, and directly underneath it is what I'm applying that to. So let's start our server. So all I have to do to start this server is run this file. Because I've got .run at the end here, it's going to run it for me. So let's what's happening in chat here?
I added another cat for you.
Oh, thank you. We'll do him on the front end. We'll add him on the front end.
Okay.
So
it's a girl, by the way.
Sorry?
I said it's a girl, by the way.
Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Her name is Pip as well.
That's really sweet. Is it, their name is actually Pip? Her name is Pip?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, I was nodding and I realized you probably weren't looking.
Oh, no, I've got the videos off now. All right, so I'm going to run in Python my flask.py. Cool. Now this looks very familiar, right? It says it's serving up a little server, and most importantly, it's telling me where it is. It's on 5,000, which is exactly where I expected it. Let's go there. So I've not got those other routes in yet. So it was 5,000, and we get hello world. Woo! We made a web server. It's cross origin. I can access it from anywhere. And yeah, that's it. That's it. We've done it. So though unfortunately our routes, we've taken them out. So my let's see, where is my front end? All right, so this fetch is our first one that we want to check. So let's refresh this. And we've got a different error now. So earlier we were getting a connection refused error. Now it says 404 not found, which makes a lot of sense because that route doesn't exist right now. We only have this hello world app. So route. So now I've got this app.route. I'm gonna let's make it separately, so we can just chat through each bit of it. So we're making a new route. We're saying it goes to cats. And let's for now, actually no, we can use what we've got just to save time. But as you can see, I've got two methods here, and I'm saying this is what I'll accept. And then, okay, so we're defining our method. And then here I'm actually saying what's going to happen on each method type. So if it's a post method, I want to actually submit this new cat. Otherwise, I want to return all the cats. So let's return all the cats first, because at the moment my post isn't doing anything. If it's this first, we'll just return here's a new cat. Actually, no, sorry. Let's return JSONify, and I'm gonna make a dictionary, and that's the same message. Here's a new cat. But we won't be hitting that yet because we're just going to do our get first. So we are saying that I want to get all my cats. So because I've imported this in at the top here from cat, import the class of cat, I can have access to it straight away and everything it gives me, which is awesome. So I'm taking that, I'm saving it in there. I think, and then okay, so this bit's a bit uglier, I'm not gonna lie. So we can't just JSONify these Python objects so easily. So I'm making an array here, sorry, a list, my bad, an empty list. And then for every cat in my cats.all array, I'm going to append this monstrosity. So it's not the prettiest thing. And obviously we're turning the string was a bit easier. And if we're just doing a usual dictionary, that's fine. We can use this JSONify method. Because I am trying to make, I'm putting in actual instances of my cat object, I've got to use this JSON.dumps. Fascinating name for a method. I've not done much research into what it's doing, but it basically looks like it's taking my cat object and it's making a dictionary out of it and throwing that in, which will just make it better for us to read. So let's do that. See this white space. So our for loop doesn't have an end, but my white space is telling me that this is all that's inside that for loop. This is not there. And I'm going to return a JSONified dictionary with a key of cats, and I'm putting in cats JSON, which is that new array. Cool. So let's have a look at that and see if actually let's all your faces are lovely, but I can't have them there. So I'm going to restart my server. Let's refresh. And I got back here some killings. Yay, love it. So let's see what happened. Now, I think this bit makes a lot of sense, but I want to show you how we can debug in Python. You don't have to be, this isn't a Flask thing, it's just Python in general. So in Ruby, we love our binding.pry. It's awesome. It's simple, it's light, it does the job. In Python, we can use the Python debugger, PDB is the module. But if you just call breakpoint, it will automatically import that library and run it right there, which is great. So we don't have to remember to import it at the top like we do with pry or import it elsewhere. We just have access to it. So let's just see that running, and let's refresh. So nothing's come up. So it looks like I've definitely stopped somewhere. And if I go to my terminal here, you can see I'm in PDB, just like I might be in pry. And let's see what I've got. So I put it before cats. So at the moment, cats is a function. Is it? Okay, that's a surprise. Let's see what cat.all is. Cat.all. Oh, well, so let's see if I don't invoke it. I'm not going to invoke it. There we go. It's a bound method. That's fun. If I invoke it, then I get an actual array of these things. Let's try some stuff. So like for cat in cats.all. Oh, they're correct because I didn't put in this. Oh, for cat in cats.all. Huh. Why can't I do that? Maybe I'm not allowed to, maybe I'm actually not allowed to do multi-line stuff in PDB. Not sure. But whilst I'm here, I can just use it as a REPL, etc. And anything that you would do in pry, you can do here, as long as you get your syntax right. Looks like I've done something wrong there. Maybe I can't directly invoke here. But yeah, there we go. That's your equivalent. And let's throw in this guy. So these breakpoints can go. All right, so let's just have a quick chat through what's going on here. And honestly, this is more about post requests in any language more than anything. But just as a quick overview, we've got here my index.js is grabbing all my form data. There we go. So it's grabbing a name, age, and image from the target, and then it's sending it off a stringified JSON in the body of my post request. I have set the headers. We need to do this so we can handle the data just a bit easier if you tell it what data is coming. All right, and then that should hit our request over here. It's going to be a post, so it's going to hit this, and hopefully it's going to return us that new cat, and it's going to print cat.all. That'll be interesting. And then I'm turning it into JSON, and I'm appending the cat. So let's see. This is, let's exit PDB. Let's restart our server. And let's get, where's chat? We'll put Pip in there. Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. So there we go. So our fetch is working again. Let's go pip, who is 3 and is stored at this image. Let's submit. Oh, so it's not happy about something there. No, I don't think this is us. I don't think it's your image. File not found. Ooh, what file is not found? Let's see if there's something in our terminal. No, there isn't. It hit the post, and then what's this? What errors here? Oh, duh. It's got this random return line here. That's not going to help. Returns a return in a language. It's going to exit out. It's going to be like,
yeah. So it completely stops it then too.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Pip, who's 3. Oh, kitty. And then I have this key thing. All right, beautiful. So that's totally working. And then let's check what happened on our back end. So I do have on line 26 here. Whenever I add a new cat, I'm printing cat.all. I just want to make sure that he made it in there. It looks like he did, because I had 2 cats before, and there's definitely 3 cats in this array. So this is really good news. So yeah, and this is it. Like, and then you could obviously expand this out as much as you want. If you did need, a big extensive, like a set of controllers, and you wanted to, you just felt like there was a bit too much to put in a small Flask API, then you could have a look at Django. It's definitely both of them are very popular. As I said, Flask as a lightweight framework, Flask is more popular than Sinatra, sort of on a level with Express almost. So it's definitely worth, like, don't worry if you don't want to put the time into learning Django. It's not, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to legitimately create a web server in Python. There's plenty of people just using Flask, but Django does look like good fun, and it is more Railsy if you want those extra features. Cool. So we are on oh my goodness, I might have actually finished bang on time, which is unheard of. Now I say that there are some things I would just like to whiz through as a sort of just some bonus stuff. One of the big draws to Python, as you guys probably have noticed, is its ability to work with numbers, with big data, and for data manipulation. So data science, it's the thing. R used to be the language of choice, and kind of is for more like old school scientists. I only have a little extra context on this because my partner is in sciences, and recently took the Flatiron data science course actually. So it was really interesting to hear from him, like his perspective of what is there in the science world and how is it moving over. So Python is definitely really, really big in that world. It's easy for some scientists who are like, I've got to learn to code now just to like keep up with the world. Python's a really easy entry point, and more importantly, I guess, really, it has the ability to work with all this data. So I wanted to just show you a couple of small examples of how quickly you can work with some really cool things here. Let's shut down our server. And let's take ourselves into somewhere where probably none of us are as experienced in, because it's stuff that Ruby just isn't as doesn't have as many like built-in natural ability for. So let's go and have a look at.
Paul was asking in chat if this could replace Ruby when doing like backend API.
Yeah, totally. You could use Flask instead of Sinatra or Django instead of Rails. If you're asking in terms of like flat iron assessments, no, you can't do that. But in terms of functionality, yeah, absolutely. Could totally do that. Cool. So there's the awesome thing about Python is it has lots of very easily accessible libraries to handle numbers and mathematics and statistics and all those things that I'm really bad at. These are just a selection of 4 of the libraries that I have to hear about on a daily basis, being engaged to a data scientist, and the things that we always see everywhere and when Python's being talked about. So NumPy or NumPy. I always pronounced it NumPy, and I heard someone say NumPy, and I thought that was hilarious, so I kept it. So I don't have any examples of NumPy here, partly because that's really the area that I'm not good at. It is like lots of data manipulation, and for the most basic example, NumPy is where like the square root method is found. For very eloquent, and I'm sure Monica knows of some like really wild things you can do that in NumPy is just like a built-in method that just does it, for example. I'm going to start with matplotlib because it's kind of the like the 101 in visualization, and because it's fun. I love visualizing things. Takes things I don't understand and lets me look at them. So we've got matplotlib is sort of seen as the essentials of this. I'm importing it as PLT. All of these you can import it as like tears of a unicorn if you like. PLT is the convention, and you will see it in like lots of notebooks. And then all of these that I've got, these aliases that I'm importing them in as, are the convention. You absolutely do not have to do this, but it is the convention. So I've just made some X and some Y coordinates into lists, and I'm going to use PLT to have a look at these. So I'll have to show the plot, but first I can try and I'll see which one I want to use. So let's see a scatter chart. I love a scatter chart. So I'm going to run this. Data. So it's going to run it, and then it comes over here, and we get our little scatter chart. How easy was that? That was cool. There it is. That was like such a tiny amount of code. And like, yes, it's an imported library, but this is like you'll be tough to find any Python project which is manipulating data in some way without these. These are just like, they might as well be inbuilt. Let's see what else we've got. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, barbs. I'm not like a big data person. I don't know what this one is showing me, but it looks interesting. And I'm sure I could sit with someone.
Is that?
All right, I'll show you it later with more data in it. Like, whoa, wow, what's going on? And let's see, let's have a look at
Is that
this one's
like
beautiful.
that comes with? I'm sorry. Does that come with Python, or you're importing that with matplot library?
Yeah. So this
Okay.
is a library that I'm importing, and again that you could use so pip install, and then this would just be matplotlib.
Okay.
That would give you that. Yeah, but as I said, that they're so common.
Monica seems to know what boxplot is.
Oh my god! Wait, where is my chat? Boxplots. Oh my goodness! Yeah. So check this thing out. Like I can't ascertain like what this data is showing me, but that's cool. How cool is that? That's amazing. I love that. It's art. So yeah,
it's one of those figures that a seamstress has.
Yes, exactly. Like a mannequin. I've forgotten their name. But yeah, so we've got so matplotlib has loads of like small like it's pretty basic, right? But it's doing the thing. On top of matplotlib, you have seaborn. So seaborn is kind of seen as the step up in luxury in terms of data visualization. It is based on matplotlib, so you need both. But let's have a look. So I've oh yeah, wait till you see the violin plot, Monica. So let's have a look at this. So I've got some data here, and I'm going to use seaborn. I'm going to pass it my data. So I've just got a list of lists. So it's basically a 2D collection. And it, as I said, it runs on matplotlib, so I am using plot to actually display it. Let's have a look at this guy, and that's pretty sexy, right? Seaborn takes it to the next level. It's like, yeah, okay, well, we can have some extra things in here. So yeah, so this is fun. Let me show you this violin plot. I'm not going to explicitly say why. You might be able to see, but my partner was telling me violin plots are the ones that you don't show to stakeholders because they think it looks rude. Bye, guys. So this is a violin plot. Yeah, these are the ones you don't show to stakeholders apparently, but I don't know. Cool. So that's seaborn, and then the final library I know, right, Monica? It sounded so sweet and innocent when it was named. The other library I wanted to look at, because I feel like it's synonymous with Python almost, especially from a data science point of view, is pandas. I literally 2 days ago I was actually told what pandas was an abbreviation of, but I forgot, and I don't think I care because pandas by themselves are great. We don't need them to be an abbreviation for anything. But basically, pandas is a library that's used for handling lots of data. So I've got here, not in my client, I've got here a couple of CSV files. So I've got one on shelter data, this is from animals, and then also some books. We'll use the books one. So CSV, comma separated values, and let's just import this in and have a little play around with it. So I want my pandas. I'm importing it as PD, and I want to make a data frame. So again, DF, very common abbreviation. Let's just have a look at this. So pandas has a built-in method called read CSV. Perfect for what we need right now. And it only needs one argument, which is the relative path to the data set. That's it. I'm going to take out use calls for now, just so you can see all the data. And then I want to see the data, so I'm going to print it out. There is like, I don't know, something like 10,000 rows in this data set, so I don't want to see all of it. So I'll just print off the head. The head defaults to the first 5 items in there. You can pass it an argument for more. So maybe let's see the first 10. Let's run this. And we get an error. That's cool. What's this saying? File not found. Huh. Really? Let's copy the relative path. Let's pop it in here. That's same thing. That's strange. That's working for me just this morning. Okay. I do not know why that's not finding that thing. Okay. Oh, duh. Sorry. Just put in it was relative to the point above. All right. So here's the head of our data set, of our data frame. Sorry. So it's given me the first 10 things because that's what I requested. I said 10 for the head, so it would default to 5. So I can see what I'm getting basically. There's more columns in here, and there's lots of different ways you can, just see specific things. We're not going to dig into that. I just want to actually do a little bit of manipulation here, and I'm going to, let's see a plot with seaborn at the moment. So this is going to be a basic sort of a very beautiful plot. So let's read this. So I'm setting my x-axis to num pages. It's going to find that from my looking at the column names. So I've got a column called num pages, and there's another column called average rating. So that's what I'm working with here. And I'm saying the data we're getting us from is my data frame. I'll show you without the sample first. So let's run this. It's going to take a little second to run because I said there's something like 10,000 rows. Oh, it's not. It's actually very quick. So here we go. We've got a kind of an interesting plot here. We can see that there is, most of our data is around here. So again, I'm not. If you want to know to get more information about the actual data EDA, exploratory data analysis, I think that stands for, please contact my fiance, but or check out some of the data science material. But we can see that actually maybe we're not interested in books which have less than 30 pages. So I'm going to drop them. In place means do it right here, so it makes it destructive. So that's kind of similar to that bang sign in Ruby. And then I'm also going to get rid of books which have less than 1,000 pages. You know what? I'm going to make it. You'll have more than 100 and less than 1,000 to be in my data set. So let's see what this does for us. It's still running.
I think your signs are backwards.
So
you have less than 100 and greater than 1,000.
Yeah. So yeah, good point. So this is, I'm telling it what to drop. So I'm saying go into my data frame, find everything where it has less than 100 pages,
Gotcha. Okay.
And get rid of it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, totally fair. I understand why that looks a bit strange. All right, so let's run this. Okay, cool. So that's a little bit more. There's like a lot of data here. It would be interesting just to get a sample out of it rather than see. There's probably still thousands and thousands even after taking those out. So I'm gonna say I actually just want to sample 100 of those. Just take a random 100. Oh, but not very scientific. You would definitely want to sort through your data in a more intelligent way. But now we're starting to get a little bit more, this looks kind of interesting. Looks like after 400 pages, people aren't so keen, maybe. So it's a bit random. It's not this is not scientific.
Right.
But it's
that
like
is the line of best fit. You can see the convergent, how the numbers really, the actual plots diverge from the line of best fit, you know, pretty well. Big, it's big.
Yeah, it's big, and like there's like many yeah. In fact, you know what? Let me just make an advert for my partner. So he's a very new data scientist, but he's coming from a science background, and there's definitely other options. But if you want to have a look at some basic intros to like exploring your data, then feel free to have a look at that. I think some of the Flatirons has some free data science stuff out there, if you're interested in actually getting into this and exploring your data. But as you can see, it's very easy to get started with just some basic visualizations, and the documentation for all of these is really good. It's pretty approachable as well. It's pretty approachable for us. Like, and when I say us, I mean like you and me. Like, we have some programming experience now. It's just a case of learning new libraries. Maybe some like Python syntax is going to catch us out here and there. But it's all very accessible, and yeah, I just want to give you guys the confidence to know that you can go and do that, and it's
really cool.
fun, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, guys. I will pop the recording of this in the Brunch and Learn, and I will also I'll throw that folder up onto GitHub and put that in there as well, so you've got a little reference, some of those notes. It's nothing that you can't find quite easily around, but hopefully having, you know, some small references all in one place could be helpful.
Where can we find the video?
So it'll take quite a long while to process, but I will put it up in the Slack Brunch and Learn channel.
Oh, I didn't realize there was one. Okay.
Oh yeah, hashtag brunch _and -learn. See you there.
Okay, great.
No worries. All right, let's stop recording.